Welcome to Thursday, November 16th, 2023. Today's podcast brought to you by Hot Springs County Travel and Tourism, reminding you that even as temperatures drop and snow is on the horizon, at Thermopolis you can always find yourself in hot water. As we take a look at what's coming over the next couple of days, we're going to definitely see a little more weather coming on in. We can see it in satellite and radar. It's been quite a stretch here of just basically the same old weather. High clouds, pretty sunrises and sunsets, but very little weather going on. But we do have a little bit more in the way of weather coming. A cold front is going to be moving through the northern Rockies. At the same time, moisture is going to come in from a low pressure system off the coast of California. This is producing some showers this morning across portions of the Great Basin and some areas of the Rockies and the Pacific Northwest. So it's going to become windy. We will have some wind, especially I-25, Interstate 80. Wind will develop. Rain and snow showers will develop as well, especially along and west of the Continental Divide. They will not be widespread. Many of you won't see any showers at all. Some of you will. There is a break after this system comes out of here by Friday and Saturday. So Friday and Saturday, temperatures will be seasonal, but it looks like a pretty quiet 48-hour stretch. Then we have this disorganized area of low pressure coming in late Sunday into Monday. Late Sunday, Sunday night, Monday will be quite a bit colder. Temperatures will drop quite a bit. And again, it's a disorganized system, so there will be little pockets of light snows, especially up into the high country. Some scattered light snows on the plains, nothing to write home about, but there might be a few travel concerns Sunday night into Monday morning, something to keep in mind. Then beyond Monday, as we get into Thanksgiving week, we're going to be kind of in between weather systems in that Tuesday, Wednesday timeframe of next week, but we're still looking at things changing late next week, really starting on Thanksgiving Day, but especially Thanksgiving weekend. We continue to have pretty significant differences in the model, but our confidence that we are going to be a lot colder as we get into the Thanksgiving period, Thursday of next week through the weekend following Thanksgiving and into the week after that, it looks a lot colder. The question is the details. Is it going to be a bit colder? Certainly it will be colder than it's been, but it could be a lot colder. That's kind of what we have to figure out. It's kind of the same scenario we talked about a while ago where there was a lot of model chaos. The models are better, but we still have big differences, which could mean a lot of difference in terms of what really happens. A busy satellite image this morning, a lot moving parts going on here. We've got this upper low that's still stalled off the coast of California. You can see the counterclockwise spin there. Here are the showers right here that have developed as the moisture from this low has been fed eastward. You see this area of high and mid-level cloudiness coming down and around? Well, this is part of the main jet stream wind where there's a trough right here. You can see it. It's not real discernible, but it's coming down in out of the Pacific Northwest, driving a cold front coming on in. So we have Pacific moisture being driven to the northeast, while we have this other jet stream taking some cooler air and pushing it southeast. So there's a bit of a convergence here, and that's where we're going to have a bit of weather today, especially closer to this Pacific moisture right here. You can see it on the radar this morning. It's nothing heavy, but we got a little bit of snow up here in Montana, but along the Wasatch and along Interstate 80 in Nevada there, we've got some shower activity coming in with this first wave coming on through. And this is where we are on the 500 millibar chart. Those features we just showed you on the satellite imagery showing up there. And this has been a trend that looks the same. This is what's going to happen over the next 48 hours, basically. That's where the shower activity will be the most prevalent, where you see the green and the blue. Up into Montana here, there's going to be some snow. Moving into southern Canada, it's going to be rain and snow shower activity right here. You can see the snow up high. Again, this is nothing to write home about. Then we get into the weather later on into the forecast period. What is left of that low off the California coast comes inland, and this is by late Sunday afternoon and evening. We have a disorganized low in northwest Kansas, so this will produce areas of rain out onto the plains. Temperatures are going to be quite a bit colder as the air now won't be coming out of the Pacific, but out of western Canada. It's not Arctic air, but it's certainly as we get into Sunday night. That's when we really feel it, late Sunday into Monday. So we're going to probably get into a good part of the weekend with really not a lot happening. But certainly Sunday night into Monday, rain and snow showers will move in. Temperatures are going to drop. And this is going to initiate other changes. What I want you to look at is what happens up here in this circle area here, because as we get into the middle to the end of Thanksgiving week, there's going to be a consolidation of all that blue up there, basically where the much colder air has been building in Canada. While it's been so mild across the lower 48 states, well, that cold air has been building. These shorter days and these longer nights do end up really adding up over time. And what ends up happening, it's kind of like a dam. You hold that cold air back, but eventually it's going to want to break. And notice we're starting to get the configuration of a high pressure ridge off the west coast and a high pressure ridge building strongly north into the Atlantic. So what this means is the colder air doesn't really have anywhere to go. It kind of gets consolidated over Canada. And this is what happens going forward. But before we get to that, this is the precipitation that will fall basically from Sunday, Monday into Tuesday morning. So you can see some rain comes out into the plains of Nebraska and Kansas, eastern Colorado. Then disorganized snows and rains are going to come in elsewhere with that disorganized storm system. Now you can see where it's heavier, it's because that's where the low tries to maybe get itself better put together as we get into Sunday night and Monday. But again, it's nothing to write home about. But if you are traveling Sunday late into Monday, you'll need to watch out for a little bit of weather. Then there's going to be a break basically Tuesday into Wednesday, and this is what the snow could be like in that Sunday night, Monday time frame. Now, let's take a look at what happens longer term. By Tuesday, notice we've got this low here with a lot of blue starting to form around it, just southwest of Hudson Bay, Canada. A sharp high pressure ridge begins to build just along the west coast and in western Canada. So the flow aloft turns in and comes in right out of the northwest. So this is going to start to direct colder air out of the higher latitudes to the lower latitudes, pushing in across Canada and maybe reaching northeastern Montana and North Dakota areas and the northern Great Lakes. This is by Tuesday morning. And again, the configuration of the high pressure ridge there and a big high pressure ridge here is going to bottle things up. So as we compare the situation between the modeling, like we've been doing here all week, you'll start to see where the differences lie. The overall message, though, is colder. Now, the European model is wanting to coalesce the low, the strongest area of coldest air, basically where it's most consolidated, moves it to east of Hudson Bay, but winds aloft are still coming in from the north or the northwest. And you see this, we'll call this a tail, and you'll see this on the other models. You see this area of low pressure back right here? Well, happen a lot of times in these Arctic outbreaks or big cold outbreaks out of Canada is you have the center, the vortex of the coldest air, then you'll have a tail trailing behind it where there's a lot of cold air on the ground that's going to get pushed south behind it. So the European model looks like this. The American model is much further to the southwest. It's trying to say the same thing, but it wants to coalesce the colder air more towards Lake Superior, and notice how much further south and west it is. You see the tail right here? There's that tail on the back side of it. So the European is certainly colder, and we'll show you the differences in air temperature here in a minute. This is by the way, this is by noon Thursday. By noon Thursday, this is the European. By noon Thursday, this is the GFS or the American model. And here's the Canadian model. Notice the Canadian model has the tail as well. So we have a strong, a weaker tail signal here, but still cold, and a low more northeast on the European model. The GFS this is a very cold solution right here. We've got the low much further southwest over Lake Superior with a more pronounced tail, and the Canadian, a very pronounced tail, but a little bit more to the northeast, more towards Hudson Bay. So we have a similar story being told by all three models. So it is going to be getting a lot colder starting on Thanksgiving Day, and then a lot of cold air is available to come in out of Canada through that Thanksgiving weekend. But look at the differences in the temperature regime. So everybody is showing it being cold. All the models are showing it being a lot colder by Thanksgiving. So that is something we're confident about. And notice the continental divide here is really wanting to show where the coldest air is. So this is one of these situations where if the European model is correct, it gets a lot colder on Thanksgiving Day into Thanksgiving weekend, but east of the divide. For you folks watching and listening west of the Continental Divide, well, the Continental Divide may hold up the Arctic air and you may not get it. Depends, though, on what model ends up being correct. So the European is pretty darn cold with a lot of cold air spilling in east of the Rockies for really the rest of the U.S. and parts of Canada. But look what happens on the GFS. It is still wanting to take the coldest air along the divide, okay? But the air is a lot colder. Gets all the way into Florida by Thanksgiving Day. Look, this is cold. This is really cold. This is where you're going to have sub-zero temperatures in Montana by Thanksgiving night into Friday morning if it develops. And this is the Canadian, even colder. So we have two very cold solutions here. Again, mainly east of the divide, but you see there's differences, big differences in the intensity of the cold and the placement of those lows. And that will be a big factor as well in who gets snow. This type of pattern doesn't produce a lot of snow in terms of really heavy snow, but it could produce enough snow to certainly be a concern for travelers, and that'll be something we'll continue to monitor. As we get closer, the details will become more fine-tuned, so you'll want to stay tuned over the next several days. Have yourself a good Thursday. We'll see you tomorrow.